Okay? I'm not saying that you can earn your way to God and that if you work right and if you act right, then you will be right with God. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that God does everything, and it is only by grace through faith in Jesus that we are saved. You got that? Good. Now, our response matters. How we respond to the gospel matters. If we have a negative response to it, that matters. If we have a positive response to it, that matters. If it changes our behavior, that matters. If it doesn't change our behavior, that's an indicator of what we really feel about God, about what we really feel about salvation. Y'all follow me? Okay. Now, that tool was designed to bring about some conviction. Me and Quincy had a great talk last week. Quincy, the Holy Spirit of God was working in Quincy last week in the form of conviction. Now, Satan could work in that as well and bring about guilt and shame and burden. But if Quincy listened to me, I'd tell him, don't let Satan win in that regard. Jesus died so you don't have to feel those things. You can have a clear conscience, not so that you can go on sinning, but so that you can serve the living God. All right? So it's a tool to bring about some clarity about where you are and some conviction about where you want to be. Ultimately, there's a lot of things that depend on you in your relationship with God. Now, salvation comes by grace through faith in Jesus. Sanctification comes by grace through faith in Jesus. Glorification of God isn't what you do, it's by grace through faith in Jesus, and your response matters. Do y'all get that? Good. Now, with the conviction, the clarity that you have about where you're at with Jesus, the conviction that you have about where you want to be, there's going to be some things that you're going to need to do. Okay? Now, my faith, and just to give the leaders more time this week than I did last week, sorry about that, I'm going to illuminate one verse for you. In the middle of this sheet right here, now all this stuff is good stuff, and I want y'all to read it throughout the week. Pick a little section, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections, and then you're back here next week. Or not, actually, we got to talk about that because we're redoing the gym for the next 3 weeks. And so it's going to be a pretty sweet place to be in 3 weeks. But we got to figure out what we're doing in the next 3 weeks. But the next 6 days, wake up each morning, read this paragraph the first day, the morning and in the night. This one in the morning and in the night on the second day, third day, and so forth. Y'all got that? But the one I want to key in on right here is this one, Colossians 3:5, right here, in the middle, just south of the middle of the page. It says, put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in the life that you once lived. But now that you've been convicted, now that it's been brought clear about where you are with Jesus and where you want to be with Jesus, you must rid yourself of these things: anger, rage, malice, slander, filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices, and you have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge and in the image of its creator. My goal for you guys is to be made new. Jesus does that. The price he paid on the cross did that for you, earned that for you. By grace through faith in Jesus, you have salvation. The old is gone. The new has come. How do you know where you are? This is what I talked about last week. The main soundbite from last week was, don't mistake growth for salvation. You can go from not knowing anything about the gospel to knowing a lot about the gospel to having a positive outlook on the gospel and not be saved. Don't mistake growth for salvation. But know that if you have salvation, nothing can separate you from the love of God. Right? The old is gone, the new has come. So put to death the old stuff. That's what I want y'all to walk away with tonight. Put to death your old self. Put to death the sin. Anything that is competing with God for attention of your heart, kill it. Any sort of distraction. Sports, distraction. Girls, distraction. Material things, distraction. Sexual immorality, distraction. All these are distractions. These are competing with God. And you're saying, no, God, I don't want you on the shrine of my heart. Instead, I want pornography. God, I don't want you on the shrine of my heart. I want marijuana. God, I don't want you on the shrine of my heart. I want something else. No. Put to death those things, those false idols, those counterfeit gods. Put them to death. Now, there's this book called The Great Divorce. It is a phenomenal book. I recommend it to all of you guys, and at the same time, I'm kind of going to ruin the ending for you. I'm not going to ruin the ending for you, but I'm going to tell you a lot about this book. The Great Divorce isn't talking about a marriage that went south. It's talking about the divorce that happens here is what God intended for the world and what happened to the world in the fall. Y'all know what the fall is, right? When Adam and Eve took the fruit, then on, sin introduced, and we were slaves to it, born into a world that is dying, passing away, okay? Now, what he talks about in this book is basically, it's this fantastical allegory that says, that is depicting what happens in hell and what happens in heaven. And that these people that I'm going to refer to as ghosts are people who have died separate from God. Now, in the Bible, we learn from Luke 16 that you can't cross over from Hades to heaven. What you do in your life matters. You can't say, I'm going to wait to do the Jesus thing when I get old and then get hit by a truck and be okay with God. If you reject Jesus, you're rejecting your only offer of amnesty and forgiveness forever. And if you accept Jesus, you have sealed it forever. Okay? You can't cross over. So this is not biblical truth. This is an allegory to paint a picture of what it should be and what it is. There's a lot of different ghosts here. Now the scene that I'm going to read from is in heaven. And the ghosts are these people who are not saved, right? And the people that are going to call the angels are people who were people like us and now are celestial beings. They're angels. Now, we don't turn into angels when we die. Make no mistake about that. Again, this is an allegory designed to illustrate a picture that is going to do very clearly. It's going to be very, very good. So I want you guys to tune in because I'm going to read it. Y'all are going to take it, or y'all are going to talk about it at your tables, and then you're going to take this home and read it again, and you are going to put to death the things that are distractions, the things that are competing with God for attention of your heart. Follow with me, page 106. I saw coming towards us. Now, this is the guy talking, the narrator, is also a ghost. He's observing kind of all these things that have happened in this heavenly place, all right? I saw coming towards us a ghost who carried something on his shoulder. Like all ghosts, he was unsubstantial, but they differed from one another as smokes differ. Some had been whitish, this one was dark and oily. What sat on his shoulder was a little red lizard, and it was twitching its tail like a whip and whispering things in his ear. As we caught sight of him, he turned his head to the reptile with a snarl of impatience. "Shut up, I tell you," he said. It wagged its tail and continued to whisper to him in his ear. He ceased snarling and presently began to smile. Then he turned and started to limp westward, away from the mountains. Off so soon, said a voice. This is a ghost who is turning away from the mountains, and the mountains are where God is. And I think he checks it out, and he was listening to the lizard talk in his ear, and he's like, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to go to the mountains. I'm not going to go be with God. Off so soon, said a voice. The speaker was more or less human in shape, but larger than a man, and so bright that I could hardly look at him. His presence smote on my eyes and on my body too. For there was heat coming from him as well as light. This is one of those angelic, celestial beings I was talking about.
He's looking at God.
No, not God. This is an equivalent of an angel, but it's someone who is in right relationship with Jesus and who has died and is in this heavenly place. Great question. Great question. Like the morning sun at the beginning of a summer day. Okay, yes, I'm off, said the ghost. Thanks for all your hospitality, but it's no good, you see. I told this little chap that he'd have to be quiet if he came, which he insisted on doing. Of course, his stuff won't do here. I realize that, but he won't stop, so I shall have to go home. Would you like me to make him quiet? Said the flaming spirit, an angel, as now I understood. Of course I would, said the ghost. Then I will kill him, said the angel, taking a step forward. Ooh, look out, you're burning me. Keep away, said the ghost, retreating. Don't you want him killed? You didn't say anything about killing him at first. I hardly meant to bother you with anything so drastic as that. It's the only way, said the angel, whose burning hands were now very close to the lizard. Shall I kill it? Well, that's a further question. I'm quite open to consider it, but it's a new point, isn't it? I mean, for the moment, I was only thinking about silencing it up here. Well, it's so embarrassing. May I kill it? Well, there's time to discuss that later. There is no time. May I kill it? Please, I never meant to be such a nuisance. Please, really, don't bother. Look, it's gone to sleep of its own accord. I'm sure it'll be all right now. Thanks ever so much. May I kill it? Honestly, I don't think there's the slightest necessity for that. I'm sure I shall be able to keep it in order now. I think the gradual process would be far better than killing it. The gradual process is of no use at all. Don't you think so? Well, I'll think it over, what you've said, very carefully. I honestly will. In fact, I'd let you kill it now. As a matter of fact, I'm not feeling frightfully well today. It would be most silly to do it now. I'd need to be in good health for the operation. Some other day, perhaps. There is no other day. All days are present now. Get back, you're burning me. How can I tell you to kill it? You'd kill me if you did. It's not so. Why? You're hurting me now. I never said it wouldn't hurt you. I said it wouldn't kill you. Oh, I know. You think I'm a coward. It isn't that. Really, it isn't. I say, let me run back to tonight's bus and get an opinion from my own doctor. I'll come again the first moment I can. This moment contains all moments. Why are you torturing me? You're jeering at me. How can I let you tear me into pieces? If you wanted to help me, why didn't you just kill the damn thing without asking me before I knew? It would be all over by now if you had. I cannot kill it against your will. It is impossible. Have I your permission? The angel's hands were almost closed on the lizard, but not quite. Then the lizard began chattering to the ghost so loud that even I could hear it. Be careful, it said. He can do what he says. He can kill me. One fatal word from you and he will. And then you'll be without me forever and ever. It's not natural. How could you live? You'd only be a sort of ghost, not a real man as you are now. He doesn't understand. He's only a cold, bloodless, abstract thing. It may be natural for him, but it isn't for us. Yes, I know. There are no real pleasures now, only dreams. But aren't they better than nothing? And it'll be so good. I'll be so good. I admit, I've sometimes gone too far in the past, but I promise I won't do it again. I'll give you nothing but really nice dreams, all sweet and fresh and almost innocent. You might say quite innocent. The angel to the ghost, have I your permission? I know it'll kill me. It won't. But supposing it did, you're right. It would be better to be dead than to live with this creature. Then may I? Damn and blast you. Go on, can't you? Get it over. Do what you like, bellowed the ghost, but ended whimpering. God help me! God help me! The next moment, the ghost gave a scream of agony, such as I never heard on earth. The burning one closed his crimson grip on the reptile, twisted it while it bit and writhed, and then flung it, broken-backed, on the turf. Ow! That's done for me, gasped the ghost, reeling backwards. For a moment I could make out nothing distinctly. Then I saw between me and the nearest bush, unmistakably solid but growing every moment solider, the upper arm and the shoulder of the man. Then brighter still, stronger, the legs and hands, the neck and golden head materialized while I watched. And if my attention had not wavered, I should have seen the actual completing of a man, an immense man, naked, not much smaller than the angel. What distracted me was the fact that at the same moment, something seemed to be happening to the lizard. At first, I thought the operation had failed, so far from dying. The creature was still struggling and even growing bigger as it struggled. And as it grew, it changed. Its hinder parts grew rounder. The tail, still flickering, became a tail of hair that flickered between huge and glossy buttocks. Suddenly, I started back, rubbing my eyes. What stood before me was the greatest stallion I have ever seen. Silvery white, but with a mane and tail of gold. It was smooth, and shining, rippled with swells of flesh and muscle, whinnying and stamping with its hooves. At each stamp the land shook and the trees dimpled. The new man turned and clapped the new horse's neck. It nosed his bright body, horse and master, breathing into each other's nostrils. The man turned from it, flung himself at the feet of the burning one, and embraced them. When he rose, I thought his face shone with tears, but it may have been only the liquid love and brightness, one cannot distinguish them in this country, which flowed from him. I had not long to think about it in joyous haste. In joyous haste, the young man leaped onto the horse's back. Turning in his seat, he waved a farewell and then nudged the stallion with his heels. They were off before I knew well what was happening. There was a riding, if you like. I came out as quickly as I could from among the bushes to follow them with my eyes, but already they were like a shooting star far off on the green plain and soon among the foothills of the mountains. Then, still, like a star, I saw them winding up and scaling what seemed impossible steeps, and quicker every moment, till near the dim brow of the landscape, so high that I must have strained my neck to see them. They vanished, bright themselves into the rose brightness of that everlasting morning. While I still watched, I noticed that the whole plain and forest were shaking with a sound in which our world would be too large to hear, but there I could take it with joy. I knew it was not the solid people. The solid people were the celestial beings. I knew it was not the solid people who were singing. It was the voice of that earth, those woods and those waters. A strange, archaic, noise. And it describes the land here. Let's skip to the last page, 114. Okay. Now he's talking to this guy. The narrator is talking to the solid being that's kind of helping him out. Read first real quick. He says, the teacher, "Do you understand all this, my son?" "I don't know about all, sir," said I. "Am I right in thinking that the lizard really turned into the horse?" "Aye." Oh, the solid person is a Scottish solid person, so he says yes, and he said aye. Okay. "Aye, but it was killed first. You'll not forget that part of the story." "I'll try not to, sir. But does it mean that everything that is in us can go on to the mountains?" "Nothing. Not even the best and noblest can go on as it is now. Nothing, not even what is lowest and most bestial, will not be raised again if it submits to death. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. Flesh and blood cannot come to the mountains, not because they are too rank, but because they are too weak. What is a lizard compared with a stallion? Lust is a poor, weak, whimpering, whispering thing compared with that richness and energy of desire which will arise when lust has been killed. All right, two things that I want you to do. One, if this lizard is a lizard of lust in that ghost's ear, in that man's ear, and that was the thing that had to be killed, and the man was providing 10, 12 excuses not to kill it, what is that thing for you? If that's lust for you, then you have to allow God to kill it. You have to make the decision to tell God that, God, I want you. God, help me. God, kill it. And if you do, then you will be shocked at what kind of transformation happens in you. What he says is lust, this thing right here, is a poor, weak, whimpering, whispering thing compared with the richness and energy of desire which will arise in you once the lust has been killed. The thing that I want to ask you, back to this Colossians 3:5 verse, is what is the thing in your life that you need to put to death? And there's a list there on that sheet. It starts with sexual immorality and goes all the way through anger, malice, and rage. What is the thing that you need to put to death? What is the thing that you need to kill?